All right, JY is live here at Akron, Ohio, Infocision Stadium, ready for Wyoming Cowboys, Akron Zips, Week 1 football. Going to be amazing. So, hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you for joining me here on this pregame. I am going to have the AD for Akron joining me here very, very soon. And we're going to have a quick conversation with him. He's only been in the job here for a couple months here in Akron. And then we will get to some pregame show here with starting all the starters. I want to talk about the Zips. I want to talk about the Cowboys. My first time doing a live pregame show. So bear with me. We'll do the best we can. Riding solo. Steve's getting ready for his Penn State Nittany Lions to play here in just a little while. On Saturday against Nevada, and made the trip out here to Akron, probably about as close as the Wyoming Cowboys are going to get to where I live. But as I said, going to have a special guest with me, the AD of Akron, joining me very, very soon. Wanted to just pop in and say hello. I know I'm starting just a smidgen after I was hoping to, but as you know, things can take a little longer than people expect. But he should be here any minute. I'll probably just jump off to get him all set up and ready to go, and then I'll jump back on. You're going to see some live shots from the field. Hopefully you guys were seeing that here just a little bit ago. They're warming up right now, are both teams. We're about, 35-ish minutes away from kickoff here in Akron, Ohio. I am planning on doing a halftime show as well. I'll give you some of the highlights that I saw, what I thought of the first half. I'm actually in a booth here right beside Keith Kelly. He's doing the radio for Wyoming. They put me in my own booth because they know that JY and TBM can get a little excited sometimes. So got my own booth in here. They set me up fantastically. And let's give you another shot here quick of the field. If I can get this sucker going. See what I got here. There it is. There is the field. As I said, the Wyoming Cowboys and the Akron Zips are warming up. Cowboys stretching it out right there in the white. Akron Zips here in the dark blue. Really nice stadium. You can see pretty good view here. We're up on top of the home side, and you have a great view. And, I'm getting really excited for the kickoff of the 2025 football season. I will try to get to some comments in a little bit. I am waiting on my special guest to arrive. As I said, I'll probably just jump off briefly to get him set up and get ready for a conversation with him, probably 10, 15 minutes. And then, I'll get into some of the pregame stuff. So hopefully you're getting some stuff here that, you wouldn't see anywhere else. Lord knows it's probably not on ESPNU. And you're getting it here with JY and the Wyoming Cowboys getting ready for Week 1 football. Super excited. I can't believe I'm here. Can't believe I'm going to be watching the Cowboys here in August in Eastern Ohio, in Akron, Ohio. And I think this will be a good game. As everybody knows, if you saw the pick episode that I did the pick the Cowboys here -5.5, and I ice cold locked the Cowboys at -5.5. So looking to win a betting pick, but more importantly, looking to see a impressive showing, hopefully, by the Wyoming Cowboys, coming off a pretty disappointing season last year with the 3-9 season that they had. So let me go back to my full view here. It's my second time using StreamYard. We used it once before when we were when Steve and I were together. This is my second time, so I'm learning on the fly still a little bit with StreamYard. But again, expecting a special guest. I am going to jump off here just a minute. I want to see if he's outside waiting for me, but I'll be right back, and we're going to do the pregame with Wyoming versus Akron. Thank you all. We are back. I am unsure where the AD is. AD Goodrich is, and that's okay. I'm sure he's a busy man. So let's get on with this. We've got the pregame here. The players are on the field, and we will go over some pregame highlights. Of course, we've got the Cowboys here. Preseason all-conference, we've got Caden Barnett, one of the O-linemen, as well as Jack Walsh. We also have John Michael Gillenborg, Jalen Sargent, Wes King, the junior O guard, and Sam Scott, who was the fourth team, Athlon Sports Mountain West team. So a lot of offensemen here for the preseason all-conference coming out of both the Phil Steele and Athlon Sports first, second, third, fourth teams, and rightfully so. As we all know, Sam Scott on the depth chart, I'll get to that here shortly. He is going to be the starting running back for the Cowboys here today. I'm very excited for that. I'm a huge Sam Scott fan, and I'm anxious to see him use his size, use his power to abuse an Akron defense. I really think he'll be able to do that here today. Let's go over some of the depth chart, which they put out here for the Cowboys. Of course, we've got Caden Anderson starting at quarterback. He had some starts there at the end of last season, showed a lot of promise. I'm excited for this kid. He's a sophomore coming out of Texas, South Lake, Texas there. Then we've got, as I said, running back Sam Scott. He will get the start. Anxious to see him play. And then we've got Kelman and Max White being the other two running backs likely to get most of the touches there, that those three players. Wide receivers, of course, we've got Chris Durr Jr., we've got Jalen Sargent and Michael Fitzgerald, grad here, Fitzgerald being a receiver. I think we have and I got to say John Michael Gillenborg, right? One of the best tight ends in the nation. I think the best tight end in the Mountain West. And anxious to watch this kid play. He looked great last year after coming back from injury there to start. And just, everything kind of went wrong to start the season for the Cowboys, from injuries to hitting an Arizona State team that nobody had being as good as they were. Quite frankly, everybody thought they were the bottom of the Big 12, and everybody found out what that team had. So definitely looking for a completely different start to the season here are the Wyoming Cowboys. I'm hopeful that they'll get it. I think this offense sets up really, really well to be able to produce a lot of points throughout the entire season. Of course, on defense, cornerbacks here, we've got Bell and we've got Boss. Anxious to see what this secondary looks like. We have a lot of new names. Of course, the safeties there, Thomas and Johnson, and then the nickel being Hearns. So a lot of names we haven't really heard too much from here, as the Cowboys really rode 3-4 guys over the past few seasons. And I'm anxious to see, there's some youth there. There's some youth. So you're going to have some inexperience. You're going to have, probably some mistakes. You'll have that anywhere. But I'm anxious to see what this secondary looks like tonight against Akron. And then, I think the defensive end, or the defense, is going to be pretty strong. Defensive line, I think we have a decent defensive line. Again, anxious to see what they're going to put forth here tonight. And then the linebacking crew, I'm really high on. Eller was a guy that has been written about. I know Cody Tucker wrote about Eller there for quite a while. And, he's going to get the start here at linebacker, and anxious to see him. Anxious to see what Gary Rutherford, how much he plays and how well he will play. That's a number I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Number 26, Gary Rutherford, to see how often he's on the field here for the Wyoming Cowboys. Of course, on the depth chart, they have him as kind of third. Sometimes you can read a lot into that, and sometimes it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. So we'll see how much Gary Rutherford plays. And then, of course, from the special teams, a lot of new names, too. We don't have Red Shoes anymore. I'm down there looking for Red Shoes on the field, and, the Wyoming Cowboy fans know that he's gone. But we'll see what the kicking game has. So I'm pretty excited to see what this team has, and, super excited to see what they have live. This is my first live Cowboy football game. So fortunate they're only a few hours away from my home, so we can get out here and watch them in Akron. Let's talk about the Akron Zips a little bit. Akron starting quarterback returns, and that is Ben Finley. And I think he's going to have to be the key to the offense. We talked about this a little bit when I did the picks episode, and, he's going to have to really carry the load, I think, for this offense. Most of their starting talent is gone in terms of the receiving core, the running back group. They're pretty much all gone. So we'll see what this quarterback can do with his offense. He has to carry that load for the Zips. And then I think the defense overall, they should be okay, but I truly think I'm very high on this Polk offense. So I'd like to see them really take it to the Zips here this evening and get a lot of points put up on the board. I think that's what this Polk offense needs coming into this game. They're thirsty for that. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're pissed off, quite frankly. You hear everybody saying that. They saw it in the pregame warmups, or I'm sorry, in the pregame fall practices. And I'm anxious to see how much they come out and really try to dominate and destroy the Akron Zips here. So there's that. Let me get the field view back up for you guys. For whatever reason, I can't get my stupid phone to stop talking. And clearly I'm just technically challenged. But here, I'll get the field view back up. There it is. So the Zips are now exiting the field. Wyoming is still out there doing their warm-up. I don't know if you can see. I'll turn it here just a little bit so you can see. Kind of cool. They have the stadium built down somewhat. So the lower tier, the walkway is kind of the ground level, and then they have the field built down. So the way they enter their locker room is through kind of this underground tunnel that goes underneath a street. Kind of cool. And it's a nice stadium. It did rain here slightly about an hour ago. I drove in the rain. I don't think they were thinking there was going to be any rain, but that's how it works. We get rain when nobody says we're supposed to. I believe if anybody wants to comment, I should be able to see your comments here through StreamYard. I think that will be the case. So if anybody wants to pop in a comment, please let me know. Let me know if you can hear okay. I think you can. I certainly can hear it through my phone. So I'm pretty sure you all can hear me. If not, you're just watching my mouth babble and you're wondering what in the world's going on. So yeah, here we are. Cowboys ready to go back into the locker room here right before week 1 of the 2025 season. Not too many people in the stands yet. I can't quite see. Let me look down here in front of me. Yep. I can show all y'all. Not too many people down here yet in Akron. We are about 25 minutes until kickoff for week 1 football. All right, I see Vince. He's popping me out a good show so far. Thank you, Vince. I you know how we roll. We're not radio guys and we're not TV guys. We're just two dudes that like football. So I appreciate you enjoying the show. And as I said, I'm super excited to be at this game. So just give me. I'm gonna go on a quick break here. See if I can find if the AD is going to be joining me before the game. If not, I'll wrap up this pregame when I return. But I'm going to check and see if he's able to join me here in a few minutes. So I shall be right back. Thank you all for joining me. Let me get back to where I'm able to put this sucker on a pause. All right. We are back. Let's talk a little bit more about the Akron Zips. Talk about where they were last year here a little bit, and maybe what we can be expecting here for tonight. As I was talking about earlier, the quarterback here, Ben Finley, his average passing per game last year was 217 yards per game. He was number 5 in the MAC, and he was also number 54 in all of NCAA. Total passing yards, 2,600 last year. That's 6th in the MAC and 58th in all of NCAA. Total offense here was 221 yards per game, against 6th in the MAC and 74th overall in the NCAA. In terms of the defense here, scoring defense, 32 per game. So leaving up some points here are the Zips last year. That was 10th in the MAC. In terms of sacks, they had 18 all season, 11th in the MAC. They only had 3 interceptions last year in all of 2024. The Akron Band is currently on the field. Brings a soft spot to my heart because I was a marching band member back in the day, snare drummer, and yeah, they made a nice big A, and they're marching across the field. But anyway, let's get back to the football game. In terms of forced fumbles, they had 7. So, last year, just not a turnover defense. Really struggled to turn the ball over against other teams. I'm looking down here in terms of their rankings, and I'm seeing a lot of 9, 10, and 11 in terms of their rank defensively in the MAC. So we'll see if they can improve that this year. But if that leads into week 1 of this season, that only makes me feel better about the Wyoming Cowboys' chances here in this game. Of course, as I had said, this team turned over a lot of their receivers, a lot of their running backs. So to talk about any of those types of stats from last year, a little bit misleading because those players are not here any longer. And I did want to mention just what their schedule looks like. So obviously they're opening here. Akron is with Wyoming. Then they go to Nebraska and go to UAB. So, they got to be coming out thinking this has to be a W for them as well to get their season off on the right track to try and, get a notch in the win column here. Their other home games, they play Duquesne, they play Central Michigan, they play Miami. Of course, that's Miami of Ohio. They play UMass and they play Kent State at home. And yeah, so we'll see what they can give, how much trouble they can give the Cowboys here this evening. This game is on ESPN Plus. If anybody's wanting to watch this game, the game is on ESPN Plus. And I'm gonna show you a little of the band right now because bands nobody gets to see the daggone bands. Let's give the band some love here, guys. Here you go.